Good evening to our distinguished guests, scientists, professors, and professionals from industry, author, research scholar. A warm welcome to one and all. Myself, Dr. Navneeta Pal, Associate Editor of the Journal of Mechanics of Continuia and Mathematical Science, and Research Scientist of Techno India University, West Bengal. Firstly, I would like to thank our eminent speaker, Professor Sriraj Ahmed, Director ORIC, ICRA National University, Peshawar, Pakistan. Professor B.M. Ikramul Haq, Department of Mathematics, Pune University of Engineering and Technology. Muhammad Asham Khan, co-founder, CEO, Nisha Color Innovation Limited, the United Arab Emirates. Dr. Navarun Dey, Assistant Professor, Triple IT, Vadodara, India, for this precious address in our yesterday inaugural and technical session. I want to thank our audience who attended yesterday this 2 days conference on advanced research and development in computer science and information technology, organized by Institute of Mechanics of Continuia and Mathematical Science, Kolkata, West Bengal, India. Now, today is the second day of the conference. Before we start today's session, please allow me to deliver some message about the session. Hello everyone, today is technical session 2. Myself, Dr. Navneeta Pal, I am the chairperson and moderator of this session. Today is a paper presentation day of this 2 days conference. All the authors are requested to please follow the points. First one is the allotted time for every author is 7 minutes, 5 minutes for paper presentation, and 2 minutes for question answer. And I will call the name of the author and paper title for every paper. It will be better if you present your paper in PPT slides. You are requested to keep your video on at the time of your introduction. Please write all the questions in the chat box, and all the authors and co-authors are requested to stay connected till the end of the conference. Now, we are going to start our paper presentation session, which is our technical session 2. We are going to first presentation, a survey on underwater wireless sensor networks requirements by Ifran Ahmed from Afghanistan. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I am very grateful to participating in the International 2 Days Conference. It's a very great pleasure to me, and special thanks from the Dr. Shiraz, who have sent in the papers and guide us in this paper. Uh, I'm going to share my screen of presentation. Okay, thank you. My name is Irfan Ahmed, and I am from Afghanistan. Today I am presenting my review article on survey on underwater wireless sensor networks requirements. As you better know that wireless sensors are the most important part of nowadays the modern technologies. So we have reviewed in this articles some of the major requirements of the underwater wireless sensor networks that are the crucial services. And the second M and the second thing that is presented and review, that is the underwater wireless sensor networks communication techniques. As underwater wireless sensor networks is a branch of the wireless sensor networks, and sensors are deployed everywhere if we look to the technology side. So the modern technology are as the modern technology are growing, so the wireless sensors or the sensors are deploying everywhere round about. If we look to the cars, if we look to the modern applications, underwater wireless sensor networks is one of the branch of the wireless sensor networks in which the sensors are deploying under the waters, and for the purpose of the monitoring the physical or environmental conditions of the seas or the source. Uh, Wireless sensors are deploying under the water, and sync nodes are deploying the surface of the water, and that wireless sensors which are deployed under the water gathering data and sending that data to the sync nodes, and sync node then transfer these data to the offshore centers, data centers, or through the satellites for the further processing. Sensor networks or wireless sensors has multiple techniques for the communication. Some of them will be discussed later in the slides. So the most of important techniques that are used in the wireless sensor networks, that are the acoustic communications, which are widely used because of the nature of the acoustic communication and due to its attenuation features at the underwater. Some of the sensors which are deployed on the surface of the water that receive data from the sensors that are deployed under the water and transfer these data to the offshore centers or the data centers. Contribution of this paper present a motivation and to the researchers, yeah, further researchers for the commercial organizations or the standard organizations who are working to deploying or manufacturing the devices, or researchers who are creating or developing the routing protocols for the underwater wireless sensor networks. So this paper will help them to understand and to keep in their minds the basic communication techniques and the requirements. So the main contribution of the paper is that identifying the key communication techniques and some of the crucial requirements of the underwater wireless sensor networks. As I have mentioned previous in my speech, that we have multiple types of the communication techniques in underwater wireless sensor networks. These are three techniques: electromagnetic waves and free space optical waves and acoustic communication. Electromagnetic waves are the radio waves which are moving with the greater speeds compared to the other waves like the free space optical waves or the acoustic communications. But as of the environment of the underwater, as of the nature of the electromagnetic signals, it is observed that it is not doing a good research under the water sensor networks. And the second one, that is free space optical waves. It transfer the high data speeds up to theoretically around about 1 gigabits per second. But the important or the most important concern in this type of waves, signals are easily absorbed in the water, and it is a big issue in the optical waves. The third number is the acoustic communication. Acoustic communication techniques are the most popular techniques which are used for the underwater wireless communication due to the attenuation in marine, because when we are transferring the signals through the acoustic communication, it is data rate or it is attenuation is low compared to the other technologies. So it is commonly usable methods under the water wireless sensor networks, which has been discussed briefly in the research article. The, the, the next slide is the underwater wireless sensor networks requirements, that our paper is based on these requirements. As we have mentioned that the underwater wireless sensor networks are very important for gathering data about the temperatures, about the marines, about the dead mines which are presented under the water. So these things when we are designing the routing protocols or deploying the wireless sensors or designing the topologies of the network. So these things are most important requirements which will be considerable. The first one is network lifetime. As we better know that in underwater wireless sensor networks, the sensors are deployed through the batteries, and replacing the batteries of the sensors or recharging on these batteries, it is very difficult, and we can say that is impossible. So we should keep this requirement when we are designing or when we are deploying that the network lifetime will be increased. We will work, our researchers will work, our manufacturers will design, or the researchers will design these types of protocol which will prolong the network lifetime. If the network lifetime will shortly, so our network will be dead, and the data gathering and which we have deployed the network for which purposes, it is impossible to gather or take that advantages for which we are deploying underwater wireless sensor networks. And the second one is the transmission range. It is also a very important requirement. Uh, if we deploy the wireless sensors in shortly, so there will be most expensive because the sensors when we are deploying under the waters are very expensive. So the transmission range to broadcast the signals to spread the signals under the water is the most important other requirements. The third one is node deployment. The specification of sensor nodes placement at the position is also crucial for underwater, because if we not consider the deployment or the topology under the water, so it will be a difficult task to manage or to prolong or to gathering data from that network. And the fourth one is the privacy and security, the most important term in all over the networks, as that will be the physical or the surface networks, or that will be the underwater wireless networks. But in the underwater wireless sensor networks, privacy and security is more important or is more crucial, because the signals are broadcasting and monitoring or the controlling are very difficult, because the sensor nodes are connected through the wireless communication, and there are some portions that the synchronization or data transaction which will occur through the wireless sensors. So the privacy and security is a top priority from all of them. And the last one is the environmental sustainability. The development of communication technology in underwater is required to consider the impact to environmental and wildlife. Wildlife is influenced to ambient and boat noise. As we know that in underwater, in the seas or the surface, there are multiple portions that affect the wireless networks, which are the boots and which are the change the behavior marine environment, which will increase the noise. So some of the population or some of the boots which are available on the top of the sea, so it will increase the risk. So therefore this is also a crucial environment. I'm not going in the deep discussions because the time which is giving to me is very short. So it's been my last slide. If you have any question, you can ask.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable lecture. Sir, we are waiting for 2 minutes for the questions.
I am G. Srinivas Rao from Dravidian University of Andhra Pradesh, and my topic is observed issues in cloud-based web commerce adoption for the financial transactions in Hyderabad. So I'm basically from Hyderabad, and I would like to bring to your notice regarding this financial transactions based on our actually what we are going to use it in this particular one. So actually today we are using something like our Google Pay or Phone Pay, and most of the things we are doing online payment. and we are making the online checks and all. Coming to the point here, we have a many number of problems related to this, and I would like to bring to your notice from this kind of a small paper, because a small survey is done by me in the place of the Dilshupanagar, very near to this area, and in this Hyderabad and Amirpet area. So the survey is conducted. And coming to the point here, we can call today's our transactions in the way of cloud-based web trade, or cloud-oriented web-based financial transactions, we can call them. And coming to the point here, we have many problems in terms of ethical, service-oriented, and financial changes in this particular area is requested. And coming to the point here, we just need to make some sort of the SWOT analysis is required as far as the situation is concerned here. And today, we people are very much known about this particular Amazon and Flipkart we are using. And in many places, the youth is more and more given employment with this particular Amazon and Flipkart, this type of cloud-based web transactions. And also coming to the point here, we have the financial transactions. We can do all these operations using a small, simple web browser, and we doesn't need to make many sort of other operations. And we are able to do our more number of financial transactions like bank-related formats, like you are sending the amount and giving the amount, and these are all possible with the help of your cloud-based transactions. And actually, I have made a survey. Rather, I don't understand. Like you have any queries, we can come. See, actually, the analysis I made with a particular small survey, and I have taken considered 100 people, and most of the people I asked whether do you opt for the cloud-based web commerce for your financial transactions, like you want to make you want to send amount to somebody, or you want to make some sort of the things. And in most of the cases, what I observed is out of the total 100 people, only 85 people are turned out to be saying with yes. I mean to say they turn to be positive 85%. And most of the people, like 10% of the people, like they say that no, we don't want to go for financial transactions based on the cloud. And I mean to say they don't want to go for financial transactions. They want to go for the physical money exchange. And 5 people could not answer any sort of the answers. Like 5 people did not answer at all, and 5%. And out of that, 85% only I could find that they are positive. And also the other one, what I have observed is, in the second one, I asked the question like, whether the major dissatisfactions do you have it? Most of the people say, like 78% of those people say, yes, we are satisfied. But 17% people said not satisfied. Why? Because they said that actually their anonymity is known to the people, like their identity is known to the people, and they can't, moreover, they cannot remain anonymous. And actually, like these people, they don't want to disclose their names. In such type of the secrecy is not maintained. In most of the people, they observe that their identity is known to the other people. So that is why most of the people, like around in this survey, 17 people said no, we don't like cloud-based web transactions, and 5 people said no, we don't want to comment at all. So this kind of the second question, my question is answered in that way. And third one is like I asked whether cloud web commerce, why do you like it, and how do you feel it? And most of the people, like 82% of the people say that it's time saving and it is also acceptable. And only 12 people said no, because most of the people in the 12% people said that they don't trust, because some of the old age people say they do not understand the our cryptographic financial transactions and all. They said my password will be shared to with otherwise, so they may get my password known to them, and like that they have expressed some sort of the dissatisfaction, or they are suspecting the financial transactions, which I observed. And six people say that we cannot say, and we don't have an idea, because those people doesn't know. So out of that, it results in discussion. Rather, I can say that there is a privacy need to be provided, and also the security has to be given more, and this study understands that there is a requirement of more number of better financial transactions in this regard. Yes, sir. Any doubts, sir? Yeah, this is the conclusions. I have concluded that a few apps are not working properly, and in most of the cases, the security and the privacy is the major impact factor here. Yes, sir. Any doubt,
Thank you,
sir?
sir, for your wonderful lecture. Now we are going to third presenter. EEGW and Energy Efficiency Gray Wolf Routing Protocol for SMA ETS. Presented by Sajad Hamid from Pakistan. Sajad Hamid from Pakistan. So fourth one is gasoline consumption predictions via data mining techniques. Presented by Shoma Ghulam from Iran. Now fifth one is vehicle license platform detections, a survey. Presented by Tarun Kumar from India.
Okay. So very good evening to all of you. I am Dr. Tarun Kumar from Central University of Rajasthan. Okay. So in this article, I have presented the survey of the license plate, various license plate detection techniques. Okay. So as we know that automatic number plate recognition, which is an image processing technique, is used to extract the license number that is presented in the vehicle. Okay, because this is the very basic requirement in the traffic surveillance system. So we have to identify the identity of the vehicles, so which is in the form of the license plates. Okay, so we are placing the cameras in the major circles, major highways, and based on the images, so our objective is to identify the vehicles. Okay, so the automatic number plate recognition is a technique that is used to identify such numbers. So in general, the automatic number plate recognition techniques comprises of three basic stages. The very first stage is to detect the license plate of the vehicle, because there is a picture of the vehicle, and in the complete picture we have to identify the location of the license plate. And the second stage, after segmentation of the license plate, we have to extract the images of the characters that is present into the license plate. And the final phase is recognition of the images to the particular characters. So, as my point of view, the license plate detection is the very necessary, and the accuracy of the automatic number plate recognition approaches are majorly depend on the correct license plate detection. So that's why in this paper I am presenting the state of the art techniques related to the license plate detection, and I have carried out various detailed survey of license plate detection techniques. Okay, so there are because the license plate detection, there are various issues and various challenges, because the ANPR techniques exist today are primarily designed for a very specific scenario due to the diversity of the different number plate style. As we know, the number plate is changed according to the region, because in India there is different kind of the number plates, and in, we can say, in USA there is different kind of number plates. So means diversity of the number plates is challenging. So means one technique that is designed to recognize the Indian license plate, it will not work into the USA vehicles. Okay. Second, the different camera resolution is the another issue, because the cameras are we are having across the where there are a different kind of resolution and different image quality, and as well as different environment condition. Okay, so that's why there are various kind of the license plate detection techniques. Some are based on the age information, some are based on the texture information, some are based on the color combination. So I have carried out the survey and presented the survey of these techniques in this article. So in short, I will explain with the diagram that the literature, that is the work existing for the license plate detection. So majorly the license plate detection techniques are can be classified into the four major categories. So one is based on the color property, second one is the based on the texture properties, and third one is the based on the age property, and final one is the directly character detection. Okay, so based on color properties means because we know that each country have the fixed color system for the license plate detection. For example, if we consider the Indian license plates, so there is a fixed color segmentation, that the yellow plate is will be used for the commercial vehicles, white plate will be used for the personal vehicles, and so on. So there are various techniques. Some are using the color model, HLS color model, and neural network to identify the images of the license plate into the vehicle. Some are the gradient analysis and template matching and the color age detection. So these are the techniques that are classified into the color properties detection technique. The second is the texture property. Texture means, so every license plate have some characters and it has some texture features. So there are techniques that based on the texture features, they are trying to identify, localize the license plate into the vehicle image. So basically, transition of the intensity, mathematical morphology, sliding window, corner detection, connecting component analysis, transition, and discrete value transform. These are the techniques that are used to detect, localize the license plate based on the texture features of the license plate. Now, the third category, which is the age-based properties. So because the license plates have various ages, because due to the character styles, there are vertical ages, there are horizontal ages. So based on the age property, they are generated age map, and based on the particular age map, they classify, localize the license plate into the vehicle's image. So here the vertical age detection techniques are there, age map generation techniques are there, and region growing algorithms are there, and wavelet age detection techniques are there, and as well as canny age detection techniques are there. Okay, so these three techniques are based on the trying to localize the license plate based on the features of the license plate. Okay. Now the last one category is the different. So different, it directly look for the characters that are similar to the particular license plate style, and based on the characters, they identify the location of the license plate. So basically, optical character localization is also used, and principal word discovery, the latest approach, is also used. Okay. So based on these survey, these article, so here is the very short and sweet survey and conclusion of the approaches. So the approach which are based on color properties able to detect inclined license plate, because there may be the viewpoint of the camera may be different. So in case the license plate, the vehicle image is inclined, then if the color property based techniques are able to detect such license plate, but these are restricted to the very specific color to the license plate. So if there is some variation into the color, then they will not be able to detect the license plate correctly. Second one is the techniques that are based on the texture property are simple and robust to the color transition, but error prone to the noisy and blurring images. The third one is the based on the edge detection, so which is very fast and very good accuracy rate, but it is having very false positive rate because they due to some brand name, because each vehicle has some brand name or maybe custom made tags are there into the vehicle, they may generate the false positive detection. Okay. So finally, I will conclude the particular survey with these statements that based on the their cons, accuracy, and limitation, each techniques we can classify that the future research of the ANPR should concentrate on multi-style license plate recognition because right now approaches are very specific to the very particular country. Okay, so we require such technique that will be able to detect any kind of license plate, whether it is the USA vehicles, whether it is the our Indian vehicles. Okay, now multi-plate processing and high definition number plate recognition and ambiguous character recognition is also required. So suppose there are multiple vehicles are there, so approach should be able to detect the multiple license plate that are present into the scene. Okay. So, and the final conclusion we can say the technique based on texture properties of the license plate achieve good efficiency in night time also if we you work with the infrared lights. So in the color, unlike the color phase property. So in case of the average illumination condition, vertical and horizontal edge detection technique achieve very good accuracy with low false positive detection as compared to the other techniques. So that's it from my side about the license plate detection techniques. So if anyone have any queries, then you can ask me.
Now, next one, comparative analysis of prediction techniques on the basis of telecom customer churn, presented by Yasser Khan from Pakistan.
The topic of my paper is comparative analysis of prediction technique on the basis of telecom customer churn. This is me, Dr. Yasser Khan, presenter here. I have some other authors and their name are mentioned as this is the 14th of July. This is my time, and the paper, the journal name is also mentioned. I would like to start from my introduction. Churn is the problem of telecom companies to identify those who are diverted to other operator or purchase later. It means we have two problems. One is that the customer is not willing to pay the service of the company. Another is totally reject the company and go for another company. So it is very expensive to acquire new customer than to retain the existing one because we waste a lot of money on the acquisition of new customers. Telecom is normally defined for those customers who intend to leave the company, and we have more than 2% of the customer just leave the operator. That is almost equivalent to the 25% on annual rate. In nutshell, each telecom loses almost quarter of their customers. Hence, the propensity of the customer can be minimized by formulating an effective strategies for the greater market share. If we have greater churn, we have the low market share. Telecom companies should consider that existing customers are the great assets and are required to be retained, as it is very clear that our customers are our asset. To face the competition in the market, operator has to play the role in the customer relationship management and focus all the attention to the customer retention. Retention can be effective if the potential channel are identified and affiliation is established with those unpleased or unwilling to continue their service with the company. So the main approach is to retain those customers. According to one survey and one research, it takes almost 6 to 7 times more cost to attract new and win the fresh subscriber as compared to retain the existing one. Well, the main reason of the churns are different and different situation. Like we have the lack of offering from the existing company, or there may be the cheaper offer from the competitor, or there is another company that may run the outstanding marketing strategies for the new market player. Customer churn is basically the identification of customers who are likely to cancel a subscription to a service. Well, predictive analytics is the phenomena that has the capability to redress the complex problem of churn from the data set with more accuracy and with less time. The identification of robust feature from the data is also predictive to understand the churn. We have some literature that is being studied during the research work. Well, according to one research that is published in the name of Enterprise Subscription for the churn prediction, the technique used is scorecard for each customer to track and monitor, while the outcome is it has introduced more feature of the subscriber. However, there were some limitation that overall the processing is complicated, generated complexity for normal application. According to another research where customer churn prediction and telecom industry, the technique used is the set theory multi-class classifier, while the outcome is the overall performance is good for the prediction rate. However, there is some limitation on the comparison. The comparison is has low performance as compared to other technique. Similarly, tracking customer behavior in e-commerce, the technique uses clustering, hidden marquee modeling. However, there was some limitation that is not applicable in the real-time business scenario. Customer behavior changes based on the purchase pattern. The technique used is association rules. There was some limitation that overall performance could not exceed the traditional method. One more research that is published in the name of customer churn investigation and the wireless industry. However, it has got the limitation that no comparison and evaluation of model is presented. KNN for the application in the customer prediction is another research work, but that has the limitation that the method has less validation as compared to other technique. Similarly, improving churn prediction multi-layer feature based on factorization and construction that has the limitation that unbalanced data problem appear after feature selection were not retained. Combining local and social network classifier for the churn prediction that has the limitation that large volume of data was managed through elimination of some data. According to the last research that is cited in this literature review, that churn prediction model based on the recency and monetary value, however, it has some limitation that regulatory reasons were not addressed. So the methodology here used is the contributory factor from the secondary data that is obtained from the Pakistan well-known telecom operator, that is Pakistan Telecommunication Company Limited, and that was analyzed in the MATLAB. The simulation result acquired are considered for this research study. The behavior of telecom churn can be predicted and parameter defined are further validated through the research studies. The simulation work will use the logical representation of given variable for the construction of model and experimentation and R2 to make the meaningful prediction. So three techniques are basically used. That is decision tree, logistic regression, and artificial neural network. I will give a brief description about the technique. Like the decision tree was commonly used for the classification of complex problems by continuously dividing the tree until it reaches the leaf node. The logistic regression, that is a statistical technique and used by most of the researcher that has the dichotomous output, that is either yes or no, true or false. So it is also considered an important part of revealing algorithm. Artificial neural network, as its name indicates, that is the replica of the human brain, where neurons are linked together in the shape of biological neural system. Well, this depicts the properties of the human central nervous system that generate the electrical signal across the human body. The model is consist of basically three layers. The input layer provide input to the model, while output provide the output to the model. However, in between these two layers, there is a hidden layer, and that shows the depth or complexity of the model. The simulation results between the data rate that is represented in the Mbps, what's the data usage that is represented in the kilowatt. Data are the two variable. The third is the number of user versus call failure. The call failure is presented in the form of the percentage. The number of complaint versus mean time to repair, that is represented into the seconds. Voice service is used represented in hours, and that is compared with the monthly billing amount, and that is represented in the form of Pakistani rupees. This is the first simulation result that is drawn between the data rate and data usage for the mentioned three techniques, that is decision tree, logistic regression, and artificial neural network. This is another simulation results that is drawn between the number of users versus call failure rate. This is the third simulation result that is drawn between number of complaint versus mean time to repair for all the mentioned three techniques. The fourth one is the voice services used versus monthly billing amount, and this is the last graph. Now the conclusion is very clear, like by comparing the data rate with data usage on the three mentioned technique like decision tree, logistic regression, and artificial neural network, NN is 47% more efficient than logistic regression. However, it is 26% more than decision tree. By comparing the number of users versus the call failure rate, the decision tree is 66% more efficient than logistic regression. However, ANN is 73% more efficient than logistic regression. Similarly, the number of complaint versus mean time to repair, decision tree is 24% more efficient than logistic regression, or 54% more than ANN. By comparing the voice services with the monthly billing amount, the decision tree is 66% more efficient, and artificial neural network is 79% more efficient than logistic regression. Overall, the result clearly indicate that artificial neural network technique is the best technique, and that is drawn from the result on the basis of the MATLAB. So this is my last slide. If there is any question, so those are welcome to ask, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for your nice presentation. Now, next one is Soma Ghulam Wazir. Please present your paper, ma'am.
Gazelle conception prediction via data mining technique. And the purpose of this study to find the appropriate method and approach forecast gathering conception in Tehran using data mining method. For this purpose, daily conception data of gathering station were collected in 5 different regions of Tehran during the period of 2008 and 2030. These numbers were predicted on daily, weekly, and monthly, and seasonal basis for main analyzing the conception of different time interval. For this purpose, using the neural network, use of multiplier perception, and the result indicate that the artificial neural network can accurately predict gathering conception in 5 different regions of Tehran. The introduction of this paper also talk about the Iran has widely energy resource in oil and natural gases, also in gasoline consumptions, and the effort to optimize energy use in all developed countries of the world among the most important driver of sustainable industry development. The prediction of energy consumption demand can be great assistance in determining the energy sector policy. Currently, the use of limiting energy consumption, especially petrol or gasoline products such as gasoline. And the literature review of this paper related to basis is Babazadeh investigate the hybrid approach of neural network and time series to optimally predict gasoline consumption. This paper presents a hybrid approach based on ANN and autoregressive moving average model for assessing and forecasting gasoline consumption. And other papers talk about other work of authors that relate to ANN forecast gasoline consumption, by some of them by hybrid method, some of them by other methods. And the other presentation slide is about the method of this paper. Stage 1 data pre-processing, collecting the collection of Tehran gasoline station during this time, and integration of data gasoline station in 5 district of Tehran, normalization data, and after the normalization data for weekly, monthly, and seasonal, and stage 2 gasoline consumption forecast, separation of training and test data using hybrid Holdes method, and prediction by multi-layer precision neural network using Liebenberg algorithm, and stage 3 data pre-processing method and evaluating, and data post-processing technique, maximum and minimum value, and method evaluation using mean absolute error and mean squared error. The next presentation about the result of this paper. The result of this paper use daily, monthly, weekly, and seasonal for this data, and have some tables that I don't use them in this presentation, and just you see the chart of that present output and real value, and output and real value of MSE and MAE, and the conclusion of this paper talk about the using a new effective variable on gasoline consumption using extensive data to increase generalizability of data and the accuracy of the methods using combined statistical and artificial intelligence technique for more accurate diagnostics, and considering gasoline consumption forecast on seasonal basis.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your presentation. Now, next one is Cellular Mobile Communications Review, presented by Musawar Javed from Pakistan. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Good evening. Thanks to all participants. Uh, I am from Pakistan. My name is Mubashir Javed. I will try to wind up my presentation within 5 minutes. The presentation which I'm going to share is about the cellular mobile communication review. It's not something I'm claiming that I have done something new, but basically I'm comparing different technologies used in wireless cellular mobile communication. So basically, this paper is about the review that how things change from sand to hills. So this is our abstract. Mobile communication is a continuously one of the hottest area that are developing at a booming speed. So this paper deals with the comparative study of wireless cellular technology from first generation to fourth generation. The first generation device were comparatively less heavy and is also called analog communication, where the second generation phone developed GSM, Global Servicing Monitoring, and GSP means Global Servicing Positioning System. This second generation basically uses the digital modulation to improve the voice quality, where in the third generation revolution allow mobile telephone consumer to use audio graphics and video applications like we can use the WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. Where in the fourth generation the data rate is a bit high comparatively. Coming to the introduction, the past few years have witnessed phenomenal growth in the wireless industry, both in terms of mobile technology and subscribers. So the first generation is basically called semi-analog system, and it is developed in 1980s, where the second generation denotes initial digital system, and it is basically CDMA, means code division multiple access, and its bit rate was around 144 kilobyte per second. Where in the third generation were specified by ITU as part of international mobile telephone, and its bit rate is a bit higher and comes to 2 megabit per second indoor. Where in the fourth generation the bit rate goes to a higher limit and it processes about 6 MB per second. If it comes towards the literature review, so the literature review clearly indicates about on the left side there is a table which indicates first to fourth generation technology review, where on the right top side we have a graph which indicates that how from 1980s to 2012-13 how the band goes higher. For example, in the first generation we have a narrow band, where in the second generation and third generation we have a wide band, and nowadays we have a broadband that is in 4 technology. If we see the mobile phones right on the bottom, we have first generation phones, second generation phones, and in third generation phones, and nowadays we have 4G phones. Although we are going towards the 5G technology and the 5G mobile phones are available in the market, but still in the Asia side, the 5G technology is not introduced yet. So coming on the results and discussion, here the table indicates that when and how 1G comes, and second G comes in 1980s, where in the third G comes into 1990s, where 4G comes after 2000. The bit rate of 4G is over 200 megabit per second, and it support OFDMA, where in the 3G it basically indicates that the technology was CDMA. This is basically called multiplexing. So the final slide is about the conclusion. In the last few years have witnessed phenomenal growth in the wireless industry. The ever-increasing demand of users have triggered research and industries to come up with a comparative manipulation of the upcoming fourth generation mobile communication system. As the history of mobile communication shows, attempts have been made to reduce the number of technologies to a single global standard. as in the Asia we are using 3G and 4G, where on the other side like Afghanistan and in Maldives side we are still on the 2G side. The first generation has fulfillment the basic mobile voice, while the second generation has introduced a capacity and coverage including SMS, where the third G introduces the higher bit rate that gears for a truly mobile broadband experience, which will be further realized by the fourth generation. Now let's see what 5G do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your presentation. Now, next presentation is improvement in signal quality through median best filtering, presented by Zunaid Masood from Pakistan.
Okay. Thanks for giving me opportunity. My name is Junaid Masood, and today my topic is improvement in signal quality through median-based filtering. Come to the abstract section. First, we have to know about the abstract of our research. Speech signal segmentation, framing, and the scaling factor are the basis for the speech recognition process as the first step. Noise reduction is in the received speech or audio signal is the next step to be followed for the quality improvement. Noise reduction or suppression is done using a novel suggestion technique called adaptive median-based filtering. We have used the technique called the adaptive median-based filtering. A comparison of the reading and results, we have compared the reading results. So what we have obtained the based on the adaptive median filtering and with the minimum mean square error short time spectral amplitude and minimum mean square error based noise suppression indicates that the proposed technique gives a much better result. What we have extracted from the result present possible contribution by the proposed adaptive median-based filtering technique. Our contribution is that the signal to noise ratio, which is called SNR, is the primary metric for result collection for the newly suggested adaptive median-based filtering technique analysis. Let's come to the introduction section of the research. Intelligibility is the ability of the listener to understand the content of the speech signal. It varies from person to person, but the minimum speech reception threshold is 50%. Quality is the comparison of the system output speech signal with the original input signal. Quality may vary from person to person, so quality is the measure of speech signal. Better effort on listening ears. Both of them are independent attributes of speech signals. Mostly both are inversely related to each other. Speech signals comprise of both useful and unwanted signals. A common definition of speech signals may be the unwanted signals. Part of the speech signal is called the noise. In presence of background noise, the speech signal become degraded by the noise. An improvement worthy to note relevant discrepancy is the domination of the speech signal by the noise signal, and this occur when the occurrence of negative SNR, signal to noise ratio, which result in zero intelligibility. However, the noise can be reduced easily if the attribute of noise or speech signals are known. There are different types of noises: pink noise, bubble noise, gray noise, or additive noise, but we have interest in the additive noise. Additive noise is the background noise that has a resemblance to the speech signal. Best example is the additive wide Gaussian noise. The signal is used as a basis noise for the adaptive threshold. Use median-based filtering for quality improvement of signal. Improved signal has much applications such as hearing impaired devices. Real-time analysis of the speech signal is too much expensive and are not in our range. There are different speech enhancement method that are spectral subtraction method, binary mask method, subspace algorithm method, and statistic based algorithm method. But we have focused on binary mask method because we have used the formula of binary mask method for our results. So first we will come to the literature review, where we have to study what is binary mask method. Binary mask method is use the binary value of noise reduction. The original signal is added with signal selected frequency of the corrupted signal. After the addition of the noise, the time domain signal is converted into time frequency domain. The frequency domain analysis of the signal provides the frequency information of the signal information speech signal. The frequency domain does not provide the change of energy of speech signal at the specific point. So it needs the use of the time domain. At the speech signal is non-stationary, so it needs the use of both frequency and time domain. The classical method of the frequency domain is Fourier analysis, but the binary mask method is represented by short time Fourier transformation. So we use this formula for further to get the result. Binary mask method in the time and frequency domain. The binary mask method BM is short term for the binary mask method, where the signal to noise ratio is represented by SNR. The difference between the target energy and the energy mass signal is greater than local threshold criteria than the assigned value. If it is not greater than the local threshold value criterion assigned 0. The formula is here. I have also mentioned that the target energy is here and the energy of the mass signal is represented by M, and where the it is greater than local threshold criteria. For better explanation of the proposed median-based filtering technique in this paper, the relevant description of the preliminary use of MMSE method called the minimum mean square error method needs to be considered in the context of stationary and non-stationary speech signal. The conventional minimum mean square error method is used as a useful for non-stationary noise, as it usually affect for stationary noise. One of the main reasons of the mentioned inflexibility is tracking the noise variance along time dimension and typical focus on statistical characteristics of the noise. Now we have to. I have used different equations, and combinedly that equation give you my topic. I have the role of the noise is the adductive white noise. Gaussian noise is adductive as noise with the clean speech signal. Mathematically, the noise speech signal can be expressed as NT is equal to CT plus RT, where RT represent the adductive right Gaussian noises, where CT represent the clean signal, and the noise speech represented by NT. Where Hamming of the speech signal is represented by the formula, where the formula is given in the equation number 3. Minimum mean square error noise estimation is we can found by the formula of equation number 4 already present in this slide, where posterior signal of the signal to noise ratio is found by the equation mentioned is number 5. So for finding the minimum mean square error estimation, we have mentioned the equation at equation number 6. So we use the MMSE filter response is the ratio of the prior signal to noise of the frame U at a sample frequency Fs to prior signal to noise of frame U at sampling frequency pulse 1 can be expressed mathematically. We have represent at the equation number 7. Now we have to estimate noise spectral in the product of MMSE filter system response is represented in the equation number 8. Now come to the adaptive filter. We have used the adaptive filter using median-based filtering. The proposed adaptive median-based filtering minimize the effect of the original speech signal distortion and show a more smooth effect during the reconstruction of the estimate speech signal. The noise speech signal is divided in 3 parts. The first comprise of the where the first part comprise of the equation number 9, where sigma 1 is equal to 0.54 is the product scaling factor. We have so of this region with the less information of C, so the noise can be easily subtracted due to the low distortion ratio of the original signal. It is the scale of 0.4. The difference between the frame of the region 1 and the median of the frame 1 region and overall median product will scaling factor of 0.5 give the value of noise region of sigma 1. So equation number 1 gives the value of sigma 1, and same for the sigma 2, and same for the sigma 3. Now we have to combinedly take the average of the sigmas, and we will then put this value in the equation of Donoho in equation number 11. Now our proposed method here, I have proposed the method where the original signal comes with aid with the additive white Gaussian noise, and the clean signals move forward to forward, where I have used the equation number 8. The equation number 8 moves toward the equation number 7, and the equation number 7 moves to the equation number 10 and 11, which gives the comparative analysis of between the MMSE and using overall method. While the others on the right side, we have used the equation number 8. The equation number 8 forward goes to the equation number 5 and equation number 6, and then it moves toward the equation number 7, and then it gives the Y1 result. Experimental result: random tests are performed for comparative analysis of MMSE and adaptive median based filtering. For initial SNR, the output of the change in the SNR is calculated for the SNR range between 2 decibel to 18 decibels, shown in figure below mentioned. The figure is given, where segmentation result of the SNR comparison with the MMSE for SNR range between 2 decibel to -2 decibel to -18 decibel. In another graph, we can see that the adaptive we have used overall adaptive method and overall MMSE method. So the result from here, we can conclude that the adaptive threshold using median based filtering shows the better performance between the range -14 to -8 decibel. You can see in the graph from -14 to -8, the red line shows the adaptive threshold using median based filtering shows the better performance, and the input SNR range between 2 decibel to 18 decibel. As compared to the segmental result, the proposed method shows the better performance result for the overall analysis. Greater the input range, the SNR, the better the performance result of the proposed method. Conclusion: the result shows that the noise reduction is done using newly proposed adaptive median based filtering. Comparison of the observations based on adaptive median filtering with mean square error, short time spectral amplitude, and minimum mean square error based noise reduction reveal a list observation. In terms of overall signal, SNR as compared to change offers improved performance. The overall performance of adaptive threshold is better in a wide range of SNR and shows low performance on a short range SNR. On a short range of SNR, the MMSE performance is better than adaptive threshold. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your nice presentation. Now, a framework based on blockchain for electoral voting system presented by Torun Kumar from India. Over to you, sir.
Okay, so this paper is about the framework which is proposed by me for the electoral voting system based on the blockchain. Okay, so in recent years, blockchain technology is rapidly adopted in the various fields due to the decentralization and cryptography algorithms. The security and trust is the major advantages that blockchain is proposed, and which is the need of a particular voting system where the trust is important and the transparency should be there, and as well as security should be there. So this paper discusses the network architecture for blockchain technology, network architecture of the blockchain technology for framing the process of casting vote and counting the votes. Okay, so we have discussed some security challenges also in this paper. So In short, we can define that blockchain is a concept of recording transaction in cryptographically secure and linked manner. Okay. So the various cryptocurrency organizations, insurance organizations, financial organizations, supply chain managements, and different industries are started using blockchain technology. Okay. So nowadays the process of electoral voting system based on the whether it is paper or whether it is the electronic voting machine. But there is some issues of the transparency that is arising in the recent years in the EVMs, and the ballot paper is obviously is not an efficient method of the voting. So this paper suggests an architecture utilized for the electoral voting system. Okay. So we have done the literature about the blockchain technology, which is in the short I can discuss that. The Nakamoto first proposed the Bitcoin. This represent the concept of the blockchain, and it present its cryptocurrency that is called Bitcoin. And this Bitcoin is basically secure and trustable due to its consensus algorithm, which is called proof of work. So consensus algorithm may establish the trusting technology. So that's why we are proposing that this particular technology can be utilized for the electoral voting system. Okay. So I will try to explain the complete system. So whenever suppose election is going to be held in a particular region, so instead of the EVM, we have to set up some node which is connected with the blockchain, and there is a central database that is having the biometric information of the voters. Now, this architecture provides flexibility to the user, that user can go to any respective booth to cast its vote instead of the dedicated booth as present into the current scenario. Okay. Now, first of all, the voter will go to the booth. So there is a machine which is connected with the database, biometric database of the centralized database. So here, the biometric verification of the user that proves the authenticity of the user based on the biometric signatures. Now there is an interface which is called Ballot UI, which is connected with the blockchain. So the interface you can see in this diagram. So here we can configure the number of candidates, their rows, and their button. Okay. So whenever a person, authenticated person, go to the Ballot UI and cast his vote, the particular vote is scored into the transaction and forwarded to the pool of the miners node. These miners node will store this transaction into the blockchain. So there are there may be multiple miners. So for the miners, these miners should be authorized miners by the government organization. So means these are authorized miners. No public node can join these particular, and each of the miner will have the complete blockchain that is having the record of the particular blockchain. So this transaction contains the booth ID, vote to store the vote. We capture the secure hash of the logo of the party and timestamp at which the vote is casted, and digital signature of the ballot UI. So this will prove the authenticity of the booth as well as and the transparency of the votes. Now, in the case of the counting process, so counting the so we have to select any of the minor node. So we can read blockchain. So in the blockchain, we can traverse the blocks and we will get a matrix in which we store the number of votes to the candidate from the each. So based on this vote count, we can declare a candidate winning. So this can be the solution for the transparent, trustable, secure electoral voting system, and this also provides flexibility to the users. So in the concluding remarks, so this framework offers flexibility to the voter to cast the votes from any booth, unlike dedicated booth in traditional voting system. The use of blockchain technology in this framework establishes the trust and transparency at the ease of the voting process. Okay. So this paper also discusses the challenges that no one can cast the double vote in because we are keeping the record of the voters, and no one can cast a fake vote because the biometric authentication is also there. So and so blockchain, because blockchain is a more secure, so no one can alternate the transaction records into the blockchain, because if anyone tried to do that, he have to hijack 51% of the nodes of the miners node. So which practically important. So that's why this framework for the electoral voting system. This will be the end of the presentation. Thank you. If any query, you can ask me, please.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable presentation. Now, next presentation is adaptation of machine learning techniques with its challenges in the field of medicine, presented by Ashim Ali from Pakistan. Now, next one is decentralized electronic voting using smart contracts, presented by Mohammad Ashan Khan from UAE. Now, next one is crime pattern analysis using the data mining techniques in a cosmopolitan city, Karachi, Pakistan, presented by Imtaz Hossain from Pakistan.
Thank you, Nabuta Paul, respected organizing committee of the First International Conference on Advanced Research and Development in Computer Science and Information Technology. Thank you very much for inviting me. My presentation is a crime pattern analysis using the data mining technique in a cosmopolitan city, Karachi, Pakistan. Now the abstract section, the crime pattern analysis studies the past data and activities to combine them for the prevention of future events. Modern technologies, modern techniques are very helpful in resolving the matter and conserve the data for the future use. Now, data mining techniques extract significant facts by analyzing the large data sets and predict future events. It helps in reducing the disorder and prevent crimes and apprehend criminals. We analyze the data of snatching and theft of two-wheelers, four-wheelers, as well as mobile phones during the years of 2011 to 2022. 2020. Our study revealed that with the passage of time, there is a significant increase found in the crime rate from 7.83%, which will be found in 2011, that can be increased up to the 14.12% during the past 10 years. As well as a significant high correlation was observed in increase in crimes percentage during the years of 2011 and 2020. Now, introduction section. Crime pattern is a process that is used to identify crimes and criminal characteristics to provide a rapid solution with the help of criminological techniques along with the computer-aided support. The way of analyzing the data requires a tremendous amount of time and efforts. Data mining is a powerful technology to analyze the data skillfully from the different prospects and summarize it to useful information. Crime is an act that harms the police, increases violence, demolishes assets, and denies respect of people. Intelligent techniques and machine learning algorithm makes a great impacts on the detection of crime pattern. The careful analysis and clear idea about the need of the end user is vital to provide the high information and increase interesting visualization. Now, our problem statement is the present study. We have evaluated the crime patterns of three types of crime: two-wheelers snatched, two-wheeler theft, four-wheeler snatched, four-wheeler theft, mobile phone snatched, and mobile phone theft during the past 10 years, which was reported in the police station. To differentiate among the most common crime type of these three categories and incidence of the crime rate concerning the time factors, we intend to build the model and predict the possible crime rates that might occur in future. Now, the data sets for the present study, we use the data sets from the cosmopolitan city Karachi, Pakistan, the data sets comprises of three most common types of crime: two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and mobile phones theft or snatched during the past 10 years. The model is built and used for the prediction of the crime rates in coming years. We have also differentiated the most common types of crime with their incidence. Now, our proposed model is to analyze the crime pattern over the 10 years period. Three types of crime that is most usually we found here: the two-wheeler, four-wheeler, mobiles, and it is divided in two subcategories: snatched or theft. Now, regression model is constructed for the prediction of the most common types and crime rate. Now, in this graph, the significant increase can be found between the two years 2011 to 2020. In the second graph, we have analyzed and compared the crime patterns during the past 10 years, whereas the six patterns has been showed. The first pattern is a two-wheeler snatched. The second is a two-wheeler theft. Third is a four-wheeler snatched, and fourth will be the four-wheeler theft, and the fifth is the mobile snatched, and the sixth is the mobile phone theft. Now, in this line, if you see the mouse, the orange line shows, the orange pattern shows the two-wheeler theft will be the high frequency of the criminal can be doing in the past 10 years. Okay, now the first graph shows the comparison between the two-wheeler snatch versus the four-wheeler snatch during the past 10 years. Over the years, we have to compare it, the two-wheeler that is shown by the blue line, blue bar, and the four-wheeler that is shown by the orange bar. With respect to when we compare it, the two-wheeler snatch and four-wheeler snatch, there is a significant increase in a two-wheeler snatch will be found among the 10 years duration. Now, this graph shows the comparison between the two-wheeler theft versus four-wheeler theft, at which we have to analyze the two-wheeler theft is more often can be determined during the past 10 years as compared to the four-wheeler that is shown by the orange bar. Okay, this graph shows the comparison between the mobile snatched versus mobile phone theft during the past year period that is reported over the our police station, where the blue bar shows the mobile phone snatched, whereas the orange bar shows the mobile phone theft. Okay, now the fourth graph shows the regression model that can be used for the prediction, and R square shows the coefficient of determination, and that is 0.8189. Okay, in a result and discussion session, in this section, criminal activities are pre-planned based on some pattern which may mimic the previous adopted mechanism. It is considered very important for the development and understanding of the crime and the place where the crime executed. Our results stated that the crime of snatched as well as the theft of two-wheeler, four-wheeler, and mobile are significantly increased during the past 10 years. That is shown in a graph. In this graph, we have seen the first graph that shows the significantly increase of the all type of the criminal crimes and criminal activities during the past 10 years. Okay, whereas the two-wheeler are most likely to be theft as well as the snatch as compared to the four-wheelers during the criminal activities. The reason might be either the easy target and or to manage them after the snatching or thefting. Furthermore, the mobiles are equally attractive, either snatched or theft by the criminal due to the easy target. In addition, there is a significant increase were also noted in mobile snatched as compared to mobile theft. In this graph, the third graph we have shown the mobile phone snatch is relatively less as compared to the mobile phone theft during the past 4 or 5 years due to the invent of the high-tech or smartphone, the costly smartphone usage of the costly smartphone, this theft or snatch will be the significantly high. Okay, in conclusion, in the present study, the pattern indicates that the time there is a significant factors increase in the all types of crime and criminal activities, snatched as well as the theft of two-wheeler, four-wheeler, and mobiles. There is a significant increase found in overall crime rate, but the higher correlation will be found between the 2 years during the 2011 and 2020. In which the crime rate increases as 7.84% to that is almost double 14.12% as compared to 2011. If the situation persists, we predict the crime rate will be increased in the coming years to be 15.6% in 2021 and 18.2% in 2025. Furthermore, we hypothesize that in deep studying by the personal observation and by the interview session of the criminals during their interview, we found that the increase in poverty, the unbalanced distribution of wealth, and some role of social media are suggested as the main roles and main reasons for the increase in crime rate during past 10 years and need to be verified. In this regard, we have extended our study to address these issues to rule out the facts and impact of these factors in a significant increase of crime rate. That this study is also going on. Thank you very much. Any question, ma'am?
Thank you so much, sir, for your nice presentation. The next presentation is decentralized electronic voting using smart contracts, presented by Mohammad Ashan Khan from UAE.
So today our topic is decentralized electronic voting using smart contracts. My corresponding author is Uruj Wahid and co-author is Yusra Mansoor. So everybody knows what is electronic voting, what is voting and what is electronic voting, but there are certain issues in the electronic voting procedure which is related to security, trust, and transparency of the entire election process and the entire voting process. So we all know blockchain technology is a fundamental technology to solve real world problems which is related to centralized attacks, trust issues over the database, over the ledger. So in this paper, we're gonna discuss what are the issues in the electronic votings and what are the advantages or what benefit blockchain technology supposed to give us if we implement electronic voting through blockchain. So the whole abstract is I have just tried to summarize in this capacity, and my abstract is in front of you, and if I just take out the important points, so it is all about like we as a citizen of any country has a fundamental right, tool to bring change in our country through governance, and for which we are supposed to participate in the election as a citizens and cast our vote to select the government or the representative. But the democratic process is established for the centuries old, and the voting is paper based or electronic voting, and this will create some transparency issues, security issues, and trust issues. Like me as a voter will gonna cast for a vote for some candidate, I am not sure and I have no mechanism to verify my own vote. Like if I have given my vote to X candidate of my constituency, so I do not have any mechanism to verify whether my vote is successfully casted to a specific candidate or not. So this is all about that how can we enhance transparency, meaning the whole process should be open, the whole process should speak itself. A person voted for the X candidate and it should be trustable system. We can verify through the blockchain explorer. So this is the whole sole idea or a summarized abstract of our paper, like why we should think about smart contracts and electronic voting through blockchain technology. So blockchain is the idea of decentralized, meaning we do not have a single point of failure. We do not have a single server which is controlling or hosting the entire database. So that is why we said decentralized. And yes, we are doing the voting or casting the vote through electronic procedure. So yes, this is electronic voting and a smart contract. In blockchain technology, in emerging technologies, a smart contract we called or we use like a program, like a source code, which have a fundamental programming logic, functional logic, and it will help to automate the process. So this is the way we have come up with the title decentralized electronic voting using smart contracts. So in this paper, we further discuss what are the limitations in the ballot paper. Like in a South Asian countries, in some Middle East countries, still physical papers or printed papers used as a ballot for the voting process. So what are the limitations of it? Then if there are some countries like India and the other part of the Middle East, in Pakistan and in and other regions in the Middle East or South Asia, they have implemented electronic voting. So but what is the limitation of this voting? We further discuss it. What are the methods available or already proposed or being implemented in e-voting? And at the C section, we call it decentralized electronic voting using smart contract as B voting. B voting, we just introduce a term B voting, meaning blockchain based voting. And yes, the novel solution, which is like our paper, our research, which is decentralized electronic voting. So with the time being, with the passage of time, I will keep discussing and highlight the issues and the rectification we thought we conducted research on. So the background of ballot paper voting is like 20 years ago, 30 years ago in the subcontinent region, in Middle East, in South Asia, we have a paper, we have a cards, and we need to put stamps through electoral symbols or party symbols to a specific constituency candidate, and this is the way of casting the ballot. But when you go to home back after casting your vote, you don't know whether your ballot paper is counted or not, whether your ballot paper is being termed as a legal vote or non-legal vote, whether you casted the vote properly or not. So these are the issues or the limitations of ballot paper voting. When you say electronic voting, so the innovation part in the electronic voting is not too much novel. They just transform the whole scene in the electronic manner. But the limitation of electronic voting is like that it is not an open system. You cannot trust the technology. There are security vulnerabilities. Anybody can hack the system and change the entire process of voting or can change the entire results of voting. And the consequences of this hacking attempt or forgery in the process will like you cannot able to govern by the people you actually voted for. Someone else will gonna govern you or will make a government. In my yesterday technical session, I talk about the blockchain technologies. Like blockchain technologies is not only about the Bitcoins, it's not only about the cryptocurrencies. Blockchain has a very vast role, which is still under research, can be bring into the research, or I can say it is an unimagined part of the blockchain technology. Like how can you use the blockchain technology in supply chain, in other use cases. So the way I am discussing the electronic voting right now, so this is the way blockchain technology can be used. Why? Because the technology is immutable. Why the technology is secure? Why the technology cannot be hacked easily? Because there is no single server hosted on single IP address. Then the smart contract, like automation. How can you automate your programs on the blockchain technology? So it's like smart contract. We whatever we gonna code on the blockchain technology, the source code or the automation process is smart contract. And what is the zero knowledge proof? Like how can you actually verify your votes without going through the lengthy process or into the depth? So we have implemented ZK-NARK, zero knowledge is NARK protocol, just to ensure the trust in the system should be valid, should be easily verified, so on. In the literature review section, if at the conference proceeding you able to check that letter, so we have discussed, we have tried to conduct our literature review in A, B, C, D manner, which is actually some questions which need to be addressed, which need to be reviewed through the already research performed. So those are like in A, what are the issues, challenges in the traditional ballot paper voting, and then at the B, we reviewed why do developing countries need an electronic voting mechanism. When we say developing country, meaning the countries which are from the Middle East section, which are in the South Asian region, and which are poor countries, less developed countries. Then at the C section, we have reviewed about what are the main e-voting issues. So many things I have already discussed through the way through the whole presentation I am giving you. And at the D section, what is the impact and importance of the model for electronic voting based on the blockchain mechanism. So these all the questions we put in a sequential manner, and we had done our literature review on it just to understand, just to brief what being done or what had been done in the past. Going forward, this is the proposed work. Let me zoom it out if you guys are able to read it out. So this is the whole process. This is the whole process actually. It is a proposed work, like how, like at the first step, a voter can log in or register into the system. If the voter is not from the system or did never participate in this ecosystem or in this decentralized system, so the voter has to register. If voter is already registered, voter can log in if the voter's account already in the system. And a voter can log in or register to the election system using desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. So it is accessible. We have proposed our work in such a way it can be accessible. Then we need to verify whether the voter is real, authentic, original person or not. So the election board will verify the voter authentication. If election board unable to verify, so voter's authentication failed, and we will send the voter back to the register or login screen. If not, voter able to authenticated by the election board successfully, so the system itself will allow the voter to access the ballot. Once the voter able to access the ballot, the voter can cast the vote. So casting vote is really simple, the same way we have been casting the vote since ages, since long. Like we need to select the candidate, there will be multiple candidates, and we need to choose one, and we will cast our vote to that particular person for that specific party. But what is the novel part over here? What is the innovation part over here? This is not as simple like e-voting, and this is not as simple like ballot voting, normal voting. What we do, once we verify the voter, allow the voter to access the ballot, then voter will gonna select the candidate. So in each segment, like voter information, then the election board verification information, then the ballot information, and the candidate selection, they are the parts of the information. For example, A part, B part, C part, D part. And what we do, once the voter select the candidate for the vote, we will going to hash everything, commit it, create the block, and write on the blockchain virtual machine. So the information is verified from cross participants, and once everything is okay, or as per the algorithm written in the smart contract, the logics written, the functions defined in the smart contract will ensure everything is good. Then it's gonna hash, and if we need to put some comment, we will commit it, and we will going to write a block as a new block in the blockchain, and the whole system is deployed on a blockchain virtual machine. So this is the central idea of proposed work. When you're gonna read out our paper, you will understand in detail. So let me give you, that was the workflow view I previously giving you. That is the actually workflow only. Now, if I give you a technical overview or at the architectural overview, so this is the system actually. Voter will connect to the authentication server, which is controlled by the election board, and lot of information is not present initially to that to this proposed system. So obviously the citizen's name, citizen identity card, candidate information, a lot of information we need to dump on this authentication server. So we have a database over there which is managed by national identities, election commission, anything, any governmental agency who is responsible for national identities of people and election process. So they will going to dump all the data into the authentication server so voter can able to log in, register or verify themselves. And from that system we will have a ballot as well. The ballot connect to the smart contract system. A smart contract has each and every type of a logic for the workflows, and the what workflows, the previous diagram or the previous slide I show you. So these are the smart contracts, and once everything is done, as I mentioned, from a smart contract, the next move will be the blockchain. The way we have showed here, once create the block, it will go to the blockchain. So once the smart contract has done the job, meaning login, register, authentication, ballot access, then casting the vote, ballot access, then casting voting procedure, selecting the candidate, this all will be done and controlled by smart contract. And if everything is okay, the block or the information going to be right on the blockchain. And once we have a blockchain, so this whole process will going to solve two problems out of three, which is a trust issue and which is a security issue. So the system is secured as per the cyber security, as per this information security, just because of the nature of the system, which is blockchain and decentralized manner, and the trustable system. Why trustable? Because on the blockchain you can access your information through special public and private addresses, and you can verify your vote, meaning me as Muhammad Hassan Khan has casted a vote to Uruj Wahid, who is a party candidate, and we can verify that information. So the security point of issues and the trust issues are sought out. Now transparency issues and the verification. For that, we have introduced zero knowledge proof on which you can verify something really blindly. For example, you need to verify two information which is A and B. So you need either B or A to verify other part of the information through public or private keys. So zero knowledge proof is like you can verify you can verify any full information or two parts information using one part. And then yes, for the tally part, like whatever the blockchain has done, whatever the vote has been casted, you can tally it, and obviously the election commission will going to conduct or announce the result through the whole process. And the whole process, the architectural workflows which I have shown you and the previous workflows ensure three things which actually a problem of ballot paper voting and electronic voting. And the three problems were which we have solved right now through this system is security in the election process, how secure it is, transparency in the election process, how transparent it is, and trust issues like a voter, the political party and a political candidate and the government agencies who is conducting the vote. Everybody trusts the system, or everybody can access the system transparently. So this was the actually novel idea of our decentralized electronic voting using a smart contract, we call it. And it is the conclusion which I already discussed so far, like what are the complicated problems present in the three types or previous types of voting, what are the issues available and how we gonna resolve those issues, what are the advantages of blockchain technology, and how this technology will able to help you to change the entire process of election in order to conduct free and fair elections by implementing advanced technologies for better trust, transparency, and integrity of the election, or you can say the integrity of entire voting process. So this was the idea of our paper or the research we have conducted so far. If you guys have any questions, I am available.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable presentation.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you all of the respected authors. Now the time for vote of thanks, which is delivered by Dr. Supriyo Paja sir. Dr. Supriyo Paja is a renowned mathematician. He completed his PhD degree from the Kolani University in Applied Mathematics. Dr. Paja is one of the founder members of the Institute of Mechanics of Continua and Mathematical Sciences and the Journal of Mechanics of Continua and Mathematical Sciences. He is the backbone of this institute and journal. He is the chief convener of the conference also. Without his help and motivation, it was not possible to conduct this 2 days long conference. Dr. Paja is always ready to serve the institution. We are very lucky to have a man like Dr. Supriyo Paja as our saint, philosopher and guide. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Congratulations to all of you. I feel unprecedented honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. This is the proudest day in the history of our 16 years old institution. For the first time, we organize a 2-day online conference on computer science and information technology. On behalf of the Institute of Mechanics of Continua and Mathematical Sciences and the Journal of Mechanics of Continua and Mathematical Sciences, I convey my regards and hearty thanks to our Chief Patron, Professor Jyotirmoy Mukhopadhyay, President of IMCMS, for his valuable counsel. My special thanks to Conference President, Professor Dulal Chandra Sannal, for his manifolded advices. I would also like to thank our Secretary of the institution and Chief Editor of the journal, Professor Pravir Chandra Bhattacharya, for his endless efforts and physical participation to make the conference to a grand success. I also want to thank Dr. Navanita Pal, the chairperson and the moderator of this conference. I lack words for her dedication and involvement in this conference. Thanks to Professor Siraj Ahmed, Director ORIC Iqra National University, Peshawar, Pakistan, for your stimulating speech delivered yesterday evening at the conference. Your comments are especially helpful to those researching in the field of computer science and information technology in the prolonged future. Special thanks to Professor B.M. Ikramul Haq, Professor at the Department of Mathematics, KUET, Mohammad Hassan Khan, CEO, MEA SA, Salar Innovations Limited, DIFC, UAE, and Dr. Navarun Dev, Assistant Professor, IIT, Vadodara, India, for sharing their valuable thoughts. I also express my hearty thanks to all the participants of this conference from different countries. Words are not enough to tell you how this conference is going to help us in the field of education and research. Last but not the least, I convey my hearty thanks to all my colleagues of our institution for their great efforts to make the conference a grand success. Now I declare the end of the first 2-day conference on advanced research and development in computer science and information technology, ARDCSIT 2021. Thanks once again to all of you.
Thank you everyone for being such a wonderful and enthusiastic audience. Good night, take care, stay safe and healthy also. Good night.